Good afternoon. Welcome to the British Rowing Junior Championships 2019, live from the National Watersports Centre in Nottingham. I'm Jack. I'll be one of your commentary team for today, but there'll be a whole group of us bringing you live coverage of all the races on the course. But while we wait for that to get started, do take a look at some of the highlights from yesterday, where we had the J14 Omnium and some of the 500-metre sprints going on during that. Welcome to a very exciting day one at the British Rowing Junior Championships here in Nottingham at the National Watersports Centre.
I really like being on the water, and sometimes it's relaxing and sometimes it's just you get a lot of satisfaction from rowing fast and trying to do your best in it.
The feeling that you get after you've done something, maybe like a personal best or something, that amazing feeling that you get afterwards, that's pretty good.
I like how positive everybody is about everything and how friendly everybody is.
Well, we hope you enjoyed those highlights of yesterday's racing. Some fantastic footage of some fantastic events going on there. Lots of capsizes, but lots of fun to be had as well during the Omnium. We'll now pass to our commentary team in the box, who are getting ready for the first race of the day here at Saturday of the British Rowing Junior Championships 2019.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the second day here at the 2019 British Rowing Junior Championships. My name's Camilla and I'm joined here by Jack for this session of afternoon racing here at the National Watersports Centre. Hi, Jack.
Hello, we're very happy to have you all here listening to us as we take you through the racing that's going on this afternoon. It is the minor finals this afternoon, so we've got C and D finals for you, and the first race will be setting off in just a few minutes' time, at about 7 minutes past 4, and that will be the C final of the Women's Junior 16 quads.
Well, we've had all 4 seasons here at Nottingham this morning, but the sun's come out for these D and C finals for the evening session. You'll be glad to hear. You can see the blue skies there here in Nottingham. It's been really great to see everyone tackling these conditions out here. We've had quite a lot of rain and fantastic to see the effort that's been put in by all of the athletes this morning during the time trials, and we've had some very brave spectators as well that have been here on the banks still supporting all of these junior athletes through the morning session.
Yeah, there was a moment this afternoon where the heavens just opened, but the stand didn't clear. Everyone stayed, sat outside and made sure they watched the racing and kept an eye on everything going on the course. So that was really lovely to see the enthusiasm of the audience that we have here.
So if you're tuning in to watch the Women's Junior 18 Coxers 4 final that was due to take place at 4 o'clock, that's now a no race. So just to keep you aware of our timetable, the first race that will be coming up will be the C final of the Women's Junior 16 Quadruple Sculls.
So yeah, to explain, we had time trials this morning for all of these events. The fastest crews from the time trial will go through to semi-finals tomorrow, racing for places in the final later on Sunday. And the crews that we have today are the lower portion of the ranking from the time trial, and they are racing in these minor finals, the C and D finals, so that by the end of this weekend's event we'll have a full ranking of all the crews in each race category. By racing them all through these finals.
If you haven't had a chance already, you can catch all the results from this weekend's competition at www.roadresults.co.uk/BRJC. So if you want to find out how the time trials went this morning for your crew that you're tuning in to watch, you can find all of that on the website. And we're lining up here with our first side-by-side race of the day, Jack.
Yeah, so should we take you through the boats that were taking part in this race? So in lane 1, we'll have Canterbridgian Rowing Club. In lane 2, we'll have Mediterranean Rowing Club. Lane 3 is Leicester Rowing Club. And lane 4 is George Watson's College. So the lane numbers, they go across from the left of your screen to the right. So over on the left-hand side, that's Canterburyan. And right over on the right-hand side, we'll have George Watson's College.
You can just see fantastic shots we've got here from the starting tower of the course. And you can see all the boats coming in to attach to the stake boat. So you can see all of our volunteers that we've got there littered on the stake boats, ready to catch the stern of the boat, to hold them in place, ready for the start line. And these will be nervous moments for these athletes as they prepare to race their final in this Women's Junior 16 Cox's Quadruple Scull.
Yeah, those 2 minutes that you get called from the umpire and hold on before your race starts, they always feel like the longest 2 minutes that you've ever had. But then the lights change and you're off and you can get started with your race. So I'm sure these crews will be very excited to get underway. You can see the full list there on your screen, a little picture of the blade colours now that these crews have. It makes it much easier for you to spot on the water. And it is a composite in lane 3 of Leicester Rowing Club and...
I'm going to presume Loughborough, I would think, actually.
I think that's Loughborough.
An East Midlands composite. But all the crews there, only 4 boats in this C final of the Women's Junior 16 Cox's Quadruple Sculls, and that would have been determined from this morning's time trial. Yeah,
and a nice, easy one for us two in the commentary box, just to have 4 boats on the course. Warm us up for the afternoon of racing, the first minor finals that we've had this weekend. So we've got a record entry this year for the British Rowing Junior Championships, the most athletes ever entered in the event. And it's great to see so many young athletes here competing. But British Rowing has just launched a new charitable foundation which is aiming to get more people involved in the sport. And this is called Love Rowing. You can find out more about it at loverowing.org, but they'll be providing grants and support and expertise to enable clubs to engage with communities from different backgrounds, people with disabilities and people from state schools who might otherwise not get the chance to row. But before we go ahead with the first race, we'd like to do a little thank you for our partners for this event.
And we're now underway with the first race of the side-by-side session. So off the blocks, and a great start here for all 4 of these crews. But I think if I was to pick out the crew with the best start, that would come from George Watson's in lane number 4 from Edinburgh. They're just inching out ahead. You can see there ahead of the crew in lane number 3 from Leicester and Loughborough.
It's a very level off the start on the far side of the course between Watsons, who have the slight advantage over the Leicester Loughborough Composite and Mediterranean. Canterbury a little bit slower off the start, but you can't win a race off the start. So they have plenty of opportunity to come back as they go down the course. They'll just be looking to get it right up there with the other crews as they settle into their rhythm here at the front end of this 2-kilometre race.
Yeah, 2 kilometres is a long way. I don't know if anybody at home has ever tried rowing 2 kilometres on the indoor rowing machine or even out on the water themselves, but we've got at least an 8-minute race here for these athletes to try and tackle. Pacing is a big thing, and you've got to make sure that all of your team members are doing the same thing at the same time, especially in these quadruple sculls. It can be tricky to coordinate, so all of these athletes off with a nice clean start.
Yeah, so we've got lots of different camera positions. If you're watching on the stream here as we go down the course, we'll be picking up roughly every 5 metres as they come through the different markers down the course, and at each point we can give you a real update on what's going on out there. So we can now see these boats just coming in towards the 1,500 metre mark.
And you can see there, although a great start from George Watson's, they've now just slipped back ever so slightly for the composite from Leicester and Loughborough to take the lead alongside the Mediterranean Rowing Club, alongside them in lane 2. These 2 crews going out ahead of the field just in front of both George Watson's and Canterburyan. So they'll come alongside us here at our camera point. We'll be able to tell what the distances are as they come through that timing marker at 500 metres gone. And it is still the composite crew from Leicester and Loughborough that have come together to tackle this event here, that have got about a 3/4 of a length lead over George Watson's. Mediterranean have come right back into it as well. They're level at the moment in second place alongside George Watson's. You can just see the pictures there of Cantabrigian in the front of your screen. They've still got almost contact with the back end of George Watson's stern, but a little bit of clear water just starting to develop as they hit their racing rhythm. But still a long way to go in this racetrack.
Yeah, we're just coming forward towards the midpoint of the race. This is often the stage where these races are won and lost, where the outcome is decided. It's where it really starts to hurt for these athletes. They go through that 1,000 metre mark and push on into the third quarter. So this is where the challenge is for these crews in this C final. It's all about holding the hand in the flame as you go through that stage. The crew that's in the lead will want to hold on to that advantage as they go into that third quarter.
So these crews all battling it out for places 13 to 16 in the national rankings here at the British Rowing Junior Championships. They want to get the best position they can. So winning this C final will give them 13th place overall in this category. At the moment, it is still the crew from Leicester and Loughborough making the most of that, but it is all up for grabs in the middle of this course, because hot on their heels are still Mediterranean and George Watson's. They certainly haven't slipped back enough to be out of this race yet. And as Jack said, if you've got that really good conservative race-paced rhythm through the middle, it can save enough for the sprint later on where it can all count, because all it matters is who crosses the line first.
Absolutely. What goes on in the middle is not that important, really. But all of these crews will have a race plan in their mind. They'll have talked through with their coach what they're going to do on the course. And often those race plans involve, okay, we go over the halfway point. It's a really clear marker for a rower to see, and that's when we're going to make the move.
Wow, big move here from George Watson's. I'm sure they'll have planned that one, Jack. That's a big push from them to pull up alongside the composite from Leicester and Loughborough. They're now actually, in fact, edging out in front, I think, and we'll get a really clear idea again once they come level with our camera. And indeed, they now have a 1/4 of a length lead over the composite. This little race here has just dropped Mediterranean off the back somewhat. They've got a little bit of clear water. You can see the bow ball of the Mediterranean crew not quite in contact anymore with the front of the boat from Leicester and Loughborough and George Watson's, but that was a fantastic move at halfway for Watson's.
What a move there from Watson. So a real battle going on for that first and second place between the composite and George Watson's College. They won't want to give up that title they were holding in the first 500 metres here. They'll really want to claw back that canvas they gave to Watson's. So the composite will be pushing Watson's now to try and secure that first position again for themselves. But Watson's has the advantage here to push on, look back at them and try and make sure they keep the advantage they've gained.
You can just see the sunshine there now glistening down on the lake. Some beautiful conditions now for the C finalists in the women's junior 16 quadruple sculls. These are coxless quadruple sculls. We've got to remember that all of these athletes here will be running the boat themselves. They've not got somebody telling them what to do, steering the boat. So there will be somebody in this crew who will be responsible for the steering. There'll be somebody in the crew responsible for making the calls for that race plan that they'll have mapped out before they went out onto the water. And it's just such mature racing from some of these junior athletes, Jack.
Yeah, when you don't have a cox in the boat, it's all about communication, but doing it in an efficient manner. You don't want to be shouting a lot if you're the person who's calling these moves. You want to make it really subtle, just slip in that call and then get on with it. And that's what these guys will be doing out there. These girls will be doing out there in the women's junior 16 coxless quads.
Well, that concerted move at the 1,000 metre has really paid off, actually, for the George Watson's crew in lane number 4. And as we cut to our next camera, it's going to be a big gap that they've now managed to put into the Leicester Loughborough crew. And in fact, actually, that's allowed Mediterranean Rowing Club to come right up next to them in lane number 2. They've got that overlap back that we talked about 500 metres ago, which has put them into a really good place and a nice stepping stone for this last 500 metres. But you can just see the distance that George Watson's has put into the composite crew there. It's now at least a couple of lengths.
Yeah, this is textbook race pacing from Watson's, but delivered so well here. Putting that move in at the halfway point, pushing through in the third quarter, the place in the race where it's really important to do so. And now all they've got to do is hold on. I say all they've got to do, it's hard work doing it, but they've got to hold on now through the final stage of this race as they come up into that last stage, that last 500 metres for them.
So this will be really nice for the girls from George Watson's to be looking back at the rest of the field. When you've got that kind of lead in this race, you'll be able to see everything that's going on around you. And rowing, one of those unusual sports where if you're in the lead, you can actually see who you're beating, which I don't think there's many other sports quite like it, Jack. But that's certainly what the George Watson's girls will be feeling right now. They've got a really good lead. It's going to be really tricky for both the Leicester Loughborough Composite and Mediterranean to come back into this race, but I think it's going to be a really tight race for second.
Yeah, it's a really hard work to come from behind a crew through them to in front, especially when you realise the finish line's getting really close to you. So in the closing stage of the race, you really want to know that you've got those boats behind you, you can push away from them, and you know what you need to do in order to achieve the result that you're looking for in this race. And Watsons really have their eyes set on that first place in this C final.
And you can just see that the conditions out there are great at the moment. They've got all the length in the world, these quadruple sculls. They're finding the water to be able to push themselves into this final 250 metres. And these great conditions will make some great side-by-side racing into the final minute of this race.
So yeah, you can see Mediterranean there in the bottom right of your screen, just coming up on the stern of the Loughborough and Leicester Rowing Club composite. But just ahead of that composite is the crew from George Watson's College over on the far side of the lake. We can see the stream coming off their boat.
So you can see the Leicester Rowing Club athlete there stroking this boat, so setting the rhythm, a really nice pace to hold on. But there we've got the shots of the finish line. They've got through this whole 2,000 metre course with a wonderful race plan. As we've already mentioned, it's George Watson's that will cross the line ahead of the rest of the field.
Yeah, they were just ahead off the start and they slipped back a little bit, but come that halfway point, they really pushed away, and there they go through the finish line in first place, followed by the Loughborough Leicester Composite and then Mediterranean Rowing Club, who closed that gap slightly in the last 500 metres there to just over half a length, I'd say.
Indeed, yeah, they got overlap by the end there. They'll be really spent with that performance. A fantastic effort from them to make that distance back. And then just at the bottom of your screen here, the final crew to compete in this Women's Junior 16 Cox's Quadruple Scull will be Canterbury Rowing Club. And nice pictures there of the winning crew, 13th place overall at the British Rowing Junior Championships in a win in this C final.
Well, with that, we should look to the D final, which is set off from the start. This in the Women's Junior 15 double sculls, so a different event there. In lane 1, on the near side of your screen, is Wycliffe College. In lane 2, Trafford Rowing Club. Lane 3 will be Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club. Lane 4, Mediterranean. Lane 5, Northwich Rowing Club. And lane 6, Rob Roy Boat Club. And those boats are just coming into the 500 metre mark now. So they've just come through the first 500 metres of their race. And we'll pick them up as they come through towards the halfway point.
So again, we'll be catching those images ever so soon. But all still very tight at 500 metres in. If anything, I think it is the crew in lane number 6 from Rob Roy Boat Club. You can see right at the top of your picture there that they've got about a length's lead on 3 crews that are neck and neck, Jack.
Yeah, so with these 6-lane races, there's lots of boats out there on the course. The early stages, they'll just be pushing off from the start, getting that speed off the start, and then looking to settle into their rhythm. Now they've come through the first 500 metres, we'll start to see the places between these boats solidify a little bit more. There'll be less change now as we come towards the halfway point. We can start to get a sense of who's got the real advantage. But as Camilla says, it looks to me as though lane 6 over on the far side from Rob Roy Boat Club certainly looking strong as we come in to the halfway point of this race.
So the D final here determining places 19 to 24 in this Women's Junior 15 double scull. At the moment, Rob Roy still looking the strongest crew out of the 6 lanes we have in front of us, but my word, we've got quite a fight on our hands for the rest of the places. And as we saw in that last race, being down at the 1,000 metre doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of the race for the lead. And they are, we can see the pictures there in the middle of your screen. We can see.
So we're looking at over on the left-hand side, I think that's probably Trafford Rowing Club that we're, sorry, not Trafford Rowing Club, Northwich Rowing Club that we're seeing there.
and then Mediterranean there in the centre of your picture, and Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club
on the near side there. So these boats just coming up to the 1,000 metre point, the halfway point on the course, and the camera will spin to give us a sense of them going through the mark.
So that is lane number 3 there that we can see. So the Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club crew in the middle of your picture next to lane 2. You can see the numbers there on the bows of these boats. And wow, that was close going through halfway. And I think actually it is the crew from Trafford that have just managed to poke their bow balls out into second ahead of Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club. That very fast starting crew from Rob Roy still out in front there. If we pan round, you can see just how much distance they've got in the top left of your picture. And actually, in fact, in second, I think it might be the crew from Northwich.
Yeah, so Rob Roy over on the far side, the top edge of your screen out there in front. They were off the start very quick. We saw them right out in front at the start, and they've held on to that position, it looks like, although they are being challenged by boats in the middle of the course. We've got Mediterranean up there, we've got Northwich up there, and Clydesdale up there too.
But what a fantastic performance here from Rob Roy Boat Club. Just an ocean of clear water that they've managed to put into the rest of the field by 500 metres to go. And as they tear up towards that timing marker, it's going to be a tussle for the minor places in this race. As I said, we're determining places 19 to 24. And we've just seen how close it was going through halfway, especially with those middle boats. We talked about that little race going on between Trafford and Clydesdale at the moment for 3rd and 4th. I think Northwich just sat in 2nd at the moment, but not far enough in front, I think, that they can sit comfortably. They do still have a lot of work to do, and that's who we can see on the picture at the moment. They're in 2nd place, this Northwich crew in the centre of the screen. And you can see there they've just come through 7:50 to go. And this is the point where they'll be starting to think about their sprint, Jack.
Yeah, so just off the left of your picture we think sits that Rob Roy boat. We're hoping to pick them up over in lane 6, and they've got the lead in this race as they come through into the final 500 metres. There they are. In the maroon there on the far side of the lake. So a fantastic row from those two girls. They've had a lead all the way down the course, and it looks to me as though they're lengthening it and make it even further away from the other boats in this race as they push on into the closing stages.
What a great position to be in there for this Rob Roy crew, and I'm sure their coaches on the bank cycling alongside them, you can see in the background there, will be really pleased with this performance from Rob Roy. Rob Roy Boat Club based in Cambridgeshire. They're a very, very strong contingent of junior athletes, of under 23 athletes. They've produced some fantastic strong rowers in the past, and I'm sure we'll be seeing these athletes again in the future, these women's junior 15 double sculls, and especially after such an emphatic performance here leading this D final from the start with such a margin, they'll have really enjoyed this one, Jack.
Well, if we cut to a wider shot, you can see the other boats spread behind the Rob Roy Boat Club there. So they're out in the lead over in lane 6 on the left hand side of your screen. Behind them, probably 3 or 4 lengths back, maybe a little bit more even, sit that crew from Northwich Rowing Club in lane 5. They're in the green, and then another gap again before it's a little bit closer between the next few crews. Looks to me as though it's Clydesdale and Trafford up there for that kind of 3rd and 4th place in this D final. But what a row from Rob Roy over on the far side. Such a distance separating these two double sculls here, Rob Roy and behind them Northwich Rowing Club.
So this will be the last opportunity that they'll get to race in this women's junior 15 double sculls. So they'll be making the most of every single metre that they can get, and they'll be wanting to have a fantastic sprint, I'm sure, in the tank for this final 250 metres, regardless of how much they've managed to get in terms of distance over the other crews. They'll be wanting to put in a fantastic performance for all the spectators that we've got here in the final stages of the race. And there goes the rating. The stroke girl there of the Rob Roy crew has just managed to wind it up that little bit more for this final minute of the race.
Yeah, a reminder, of course, these races are not for nothing. They are for a ranking, and all of these crews will be looking to get themselves as high up that list as they can in the national rankings for the British Rowing Junior Championships.
So we're riding with this Rob Roy crew right through until the line. You can see the red boys there in the foreground. They signify 100 metres to go when you get into those red boys, so they'll know they've only got about 10 or 15 strokes to get them over the line, and there it is, the finish line that they'll be working towards. Look at the distance. You can't even see any other boats in the picture of this D final of the women's Junior 15 double sculls. This has been a huge performance from this girls double here, and they'll be really, really pleased with the result. We can see Northwich there coming into your picture in lane number 5 in second place, and you can just see the effort there that those Rob Roy girls will had to expend to get that kind of lead.
Yeah. Knowing this is their last race of the day, it looks to me as though they've really pushed it on the course. They could have gone, let's settle down now, we know we're out in the lead, but they wanted to show what they can do. Northwich over the line there, follows. Very close race for third place here. Looks to me as though that is the Mediterranean against Wycliffe Junior Rowing Club. Very, very close, so very difficult to call that. I think personally Mediterranean probably had the slightest advantage, but I think that's going to be down to a photo finish.
Oh, I think we can just about see the results there on the top left of your picture, and I think actually Wycliffe managed to pop through at the last minute. You can see the times.
What a row from Wycliffe, who've come through in the final stage of this race. They looked as though they were a little bit further back with 500 metres to go, so they've had a really strong last quarter there.
Just goes to show you that it's never over until it's over, and you've got to race right to the line because those points of seconds really can matter.
So with that, we'll pick up the next race. This is the C final of the Women's Junior 15 double sculls. On the near side of your screen in lane 1 is Ross Rowing Club. In lane 2, Yarm School. Lane 3, St Leonard's School. Lane 4, Reading Rowing Club. Lane 5, Maidenhead Rowing Club. And in lane 6, it's Henley Rowing Club.
And we are absolutely motoring towards the finish of this race. It's been a very quick one here in this Women's Junior 15 Double Sculls C final. And we're joining the pictures now that we're broadcasting from the top of the finish tower, pretty much. And that is the spread that we've got in this C final. It's much more spread than the last race, actually, in fact.
Yeah, it looks to me, so right up there at towards the front of this race, in the middle there, that looks to me as though it's probably Reading Rowing Club. I think lane 6 is right up there too, though, on the far side, which would be Henley Rowing Club. So it's going to be between Henley and Reading Rowing Club for the lead in this race.
And we're entering the final 250 metres now, 200 metres. So that's on your picture there, that is Reading Rowing Club just to the left there, ahead of Maidenhead, just to the right of your screen in the green. These two crews over in lanes 4 and 5.
And they come in now towards the closing stages, so we'll shortly see these crews appearing on our finish line camera, which we'll switch to in just a moment.
So indeed, I think it is actually probably the Reading Rowing Club crew that are out there in the lead. I'm not sure where Henley B are, but Reading Rowing Club, really strong performance here. This is again the C final, so one up from the race that we just watched in the D final, determining places 13 to 18. But wow, a fantastic effort there from Reading Rowing Club to come over the line in first in that C final.
Yeah, so in second place, the lane over from Reading Rowing Club, which is Maidenhead Rowing Club. Their A double scull just goes through the line now.
These two crews up on St Leonard's School in lane number 3 in the red there in the middle of your picture. They'll take third over the line.
In fourth, it will be lane 2, which is the Yarm School.
And then Ross Rowing Club from the River Wye, just with the final few strokes there to get themselves over the line. A big effort from them, and that is all crews accounted for, so I'm not sure whether Henley B were unable to attend that C final, but that was indeed a win for Reading Rowing Club.
Well, with that, we should look to the next race on the course. This will be the D final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls. So in lane 1, we will have Whitty of Wallingford Rowing Club. In lane 2, it will be Audley Williams of Fulham Reach Boat Club. In lane 3, Teague of AB7 Rowing Club. Lane 4, Billington of Ross Rowing Club. Lane 5, Fudge of St Andrew Boat Club. And lane 6, Buxton of Nottingham Rowing Club, racing on home water.
So the crew's just coming up to 500 metres gone now in this D final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls. And we'll be cutting to that 500 metre camera in just a moment to bring you all the updates. But it does look to me as if it is the sculler on home water, Nottingham Rowing Club, leading out the pack in the initial stages.
Yeah, so over on the far side in lane 6, leading through there go Nottingham Rowing Club. Behind them, it looks to be Ross Rowing Club in lane 5. St Andrew Boat Club in lane 5, followed by Ross Rowing Club.
And on the near side of your picture there, you can see the sculler from Wallingford Rowing Club in lane number 1, with Fulham Reach in lane number 2, just a little bit further back.
So I said it was St Andrew Boat Club in second place. I think it is indeed actually Ross Rowing Club, followed by AB7. So Billington up there in the second place, but it is Buxton of Nottingham Rowing Club over in lane 6 who is leading out this D final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls.
Yeah, and Buxton of Nottingham Rowing Club will be used to rowing on this lake. He'll have done plenty of training sessions out here on the water, on the river as well. Don't forget that we've got the river here in Nottingham just behind the course that you can go out and train on. But he'll be very used to sculling in these conditions. And he'll also have a lot of home support. I'm sure family members and friends that have come to watch from the local area. But this D final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls rattling now towards halfway, and it is all quite tight in the centre of the course. We can see there that the Ross Rowing Club sculler still sat in second behind the local favourite from Nottingham Rowing Club, but being closed in on by a few of the other scullers around. AB7 up there in lane number 3, and Wallingford Rowing Club's Whitty as well, just putting in a bit of a push to try and draw in on those places.
Yeah, so racing in the Junior 15 category in a single scull. This will probably be one of the first events they've had, certainly the first season they've had, racing over 2 kilometres in a single scull. It is a long way to go for a young sculler, but these scullers are really showing off here as they come down the course, and they look very comfortable out there in the conditions today.
And a great little push there from Teague of AB7 Rowing Club. You can see there in the centre lane, just behind Ross Rowing Club in the red boat to the left of your picture. So that's Ross Rowing Club just to the left there ahead of AB7, who's come right up into third place. Remember, we can't see the leading sculler at the moment, Buxton of Nottingham Rowing Club, because they're off the left-hand side of your picture. But that is the 1, 2, 3 going through this point.
So yeah, these scullers now coming into the last 500 metres of the race. Or sorry, just coming through the 1,000 metre mark into the second half of the race, towards the last 500 metres of the race.
So a great race here in these single sculls. And anything can happen in the single sculls. They're boats that can change speed very, very quickly. We've seen scullers come back from much further down than in the bigger boats to come through and change their ranking, especially in the final 500 metres. So the scullers on your screen at the moment, to the left of your picture, St Andrew Boat Club. In the middle of your screen, Ross Rowing Club. And on the right-hand side, that's AB7. So the Ross sculler still sat in second place, I believe, behind Nottingham Rowing Club. Off to the left of your screen, it's then AB7 in third, ahead of St Andrew Boat Club, which, contrary to popular belief, is actually based in Edinburgh, not St Andrews. So if you are listening and you're wondering why it's not St Andrew's Boat Club, it is St Andrew Boat Club without the S. They have a boat called that, I know that for a fact, and they are based in Edinburgh.
Yeah, they row on the Union Canal, just like George Watson's College. Those two crews, those two clubs will be familiar with themselves if they see them matched against each other in other events on the course today. But here comes St Andrew Boat Club in this D final.
So approaching 500 metres to go now in the single sculls. Really tough when you're just out there by yourself. I have so much respect for all of the single scullers out here on the water, all of the athletes out on the water, but especially the single scullers, because it's a lonely place to be sometimes, especially when you've done 1,500 metres of a final. You're feeling really tired. It's very easy to just come off the pace, but they'll all be pushing as hard as they can out there in this D final. And a great little turn of pace from the AB7 sculler still, and from the Ross Rowing Club sculler, who's managed to just break clear of the little fight going on behind, with St Andrew pulling up alongside the sculler from AB7.
Yeah, the single sculler, real mental test when you're out there on your own, pushing off down the course. You'd think rowing could be a sport where you can coast when you're out in the lead, but it's certainly not. It's really, really hard work. Even when you've got an advantage on the other crews, you've still got to push on and make sure that you're holding on to that position.
Wow, the lead that I've just seen that the Nottingham Sculler has got on everybody else out there on the water is just sensational. We're going to pan to a shot in a minute of all of the crews out there on the water from our camera up on the tower, and you can just see there how much distance Buxton of Nottingham Rowing Club has put into the rest of the field. He is just cruising out there. You were just talking about not being able to cruise in a single scull, but I think in the position that Buxton's in, this is just absolutely fantastic stuff. The home crowd will be really pleased to see Buxton coming in with such a lead over the rest of the field. But a bit further back, still the Ross Rowing Club Sculler with that second place, the best of the rest in this D final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls, with a great fight developing between AB7 and St Andrew.
Yeah, just one lane separating AB7 and St Andrews, so they will be able to hear each other beside themselves. They'll know that other sculler's right up close with them, and they'll want to push on to try and secure that third place. Meanwhile, in the middle, Ross Rowing Club will be looking to push on and make sure that neither of these two scullers just behind him can catch up.
So the final few strokes now for Buxton of Nottingham Rowing Club, and what a race he's had. Off the start, he developed that huge gap in between himself and the rest of the pack, so he didn't have to panic, he didn't have to worry about anyone else around him, could row his own race. And as we come in past the banners there, through the red boys, he's got about 5 strokes left to go to get himself over the line in front in this D final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls.
Yeah, he'll be very, very happy with that performance, but we're shortly expecting into our picture the next few crews behind, and we can see the separation developed between Buxton and these other scullers. Just look at that gap he's delivered here in this D final.
And a little thumbs up there, I think, to the bank. I'm not sure whether that was a coach or something that's alongside. Very pleased with his performance, and we're cutting now to the second sculler over the line. You can just see how much distance Buxton had, but it's then going to be Billington of Ross Rowing Club there in the centre view picture, and I think actually AB7 still hanging on to third ahead of that push from St Andrews Fudge.
Yeah, there was a battle there going on in the last 500 metres between AB7 and St Andrews, but we can see a round of applause there from the Ross Sculler for the other athletes in this race, as coming through the line on the near side are Fulham Reach and Wallingford Rowing Club.
So fantastic sportsmanship there in the Open Junior 15 single sculls, and we're going to move swiftly on to the C final of this event. So again, determining the next set of places up from 13 to 18.
So in this C final, on the near side of your screen in lane 1, we have George Watson's College, represented by Martin. In lane 2, we have Team Keene, represented by Beck. Lane 3 is Allen of St Ives Rowing Club. Lane 4 is Williams of Barnes Elms Rowing Club. Lane 5 is Foxwell, also of St Andrew Boat Club. And in lane 6, we've got Canterbury Rowing Club, represented by Woodard.
So no real clear leader in this C final of the Open Junior 15 single sculls. A very different race we've got on our hands here, where the two leaders are going to have to fight for that top position coming into the finish line. And you're joining this here with just over 500 metres to go, and two people at the front of the field here, Jack, that are battling it out between Barn Elms there in the green on the right hand side of your picture and Canterbridgian on the left.
Yeah, I'd wager it looks to me as though Canterbridgian probably has the slight advantage there as we come in to this next marker, but it's going to be very close between these scullers.
And as we said before, the turn of speed that we can get into the finish in the single sculls is just quite dramatic sometimes. You know, if one person decides that they want to go and put a push in, they can decide to do that without, you know, the need for support from other people around them. They can just decide that they want to put in a burst, they want to change their speed. So at the moment, Barn Elms are potentially still in contention, but I think actually now with only 10 or so strokes to go, I think it's Woodward of Canterbridgian there on your screen who's managed to drop off the challenge from Barn Elms. Williams in lane number 4.
Yeah, those red boys are sure sign it's time to empty the tank. Make sure you've put everything out on the course and get yourself over the line in the place you want. And look at the gap there. Looks to me about a length of clear water, so 2 lengths distance between Canterbridgian and Barn Elms Rowing Club.
And then it's going to be St Ives coming in over the line in third. ahead of, again, a very tight race there for the last positions, but I think it's going to be George Watson's ahead of St Andrew Boat Club, and then I'm not sure where Team Keen's Beck is at this point in time, but we'll just wait to see.
There they go, they come into the finish now, just a little bit further back on the course there, but I'm sure they'll be happy to have rowed in this C final to have their chance to perform at the British Rowing Junior Championships.
And as we've said before, all the crews here looking to get a national ranking here at these British Rowing Junior Championships. This is the pinnacle of racing in the junior calendar. They're looking to put themselves in a place where they've got a national ranking in each boat category.
So we're shortly expecting the next race on the course. This will be the D final, but this is now in the Open Junior 18 single sculls. So we've skipped through a few years, but the same boat class. In lane 1 we'll have Nottingham Rowing Club represented by Hay. In lane 2 it will be Gloucester Hartbury represented by Reed. Lane 3 Nottingham Rowing Club represented by Preston. Lane 4 Northampton represented by Sampson. Lane 5 is Patton of Thames Rowing Club. And in lane 6, another sculler from Gloucester Hartbury, it's Kilger.
So I think we're just waiting to get onto the start with these single sculls. The oldest age category offered here at the Junior Championships, the Open Junior 18 single sculls. So a lot of these athletes will be in their final years at school. They'll have just done their final exams before potentially going on to university or going into jobs. So the last opportunity for them to compete here at this championships.
So they'll be looking to put everything out there on the course, their last chance to race as a junior. And if they race again at a British Rowing Championship, it will probably be at the Senior Championships when we next have those hosted here in Nottingham.
So you can see last minute adjustments taking place here on the starting blocks for these single sculls.
So you tap down, you get attached to these stakes. There'll be an individual on the end of each stake. He holds on to the hull of your boat. The umpire will then call you to attention and name off each of the crews. And then when they're ready to go, they'll call you to attention, then you sit in your front stops position, the lights change, and you'll start, your race starts. So often a few short, sharp strokes just to get the rhythm, the run on the boat, and then you'll start to lengthen out into your race rhythm.
So I'm sure a lot of these scullers here just trying to manoeuvre themselves onto the stake boats. You can see last minute adjustments in steering once they're attached. They'll make sure they're wanting to run line straight the whole way down this 2,000 metre track. The less steering, the less the boat speed comes off, so they'll be wanting to go as straight as possible, especially in the single sculls.
Yes, that umpire will shortly have this race underway. It's important to note all the umpires at British Rowing events are volunteers, and without volunteers we wouldn't be able to make events like this possible. If you're interested in finding out how you can support British Rowing, then do head to our website. You can find out about all the different volunteer roles that are available at these events, right the way from commentary, like me and Camilla are doing here today, all the way through to race timing, umpiring, safety, and all these other positions. So we do look for new volunteers every year. And if you're sat at home thinking, I want to be involved, this is one great way to get involved in the sport of rowing.
I promise you, you do get the best view of all the racing, and it's just such a great atmosphere here to be involved with. Everyone just has such a great time, and just to see some of these athletes, the smiles on their faces once they've had a great race, lining up on the start line as well. They're just great athletes to be around. They have such a great time, and it's fantastic to be able to facilitate them having a really good time out there on the water. So big thumbs up for volunteering, and both Jack and I have really enjoyed our time volunteering here at the British Rowing Junior Championship so far.
Yeah. So Camilla, you've gone from commentating at events like this, and now you're out doing international events as well sometimes.
Yes, so I've just come back from the third World Cup in Rotterdam just last weekend. So yeah, it's fantastic to see both ends of the sport, actually, right the way through grassroots sport. We've seen some of the junior 15s and junior 14s yesterday, all the way up to the international level, and it's been a pleasure. So I'm really happy to be here where it all started for me. I started rowing at the British Rowing Junior Championships when I was just 14 years old in my single, and so I've been in that position on the stake boat myself, and I know what it feels like. So yeah, great to be back, great to volunteer here every year, and I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, some of the best racing you will see is at this junior level. We look forward to this next race shortly setting off from the start. You can see all the boats now attached, so the umpire will be calling them to order, ready for this D final of the Open Junior 18 single sculls. Quick reminder of who's in what lane. Over in lane 1 on the near side, the left hand side of your screen, Nottingham Rowing Club. It's then Gloucester Hartpury represented by Reed in lane 2. Lane 3 is Nottingham Rowing Club represented by Preston. Lane 4 Northampton represented by Sampson. Lane 5 is Patton of Thames Rowing Club, and lane 6 is Kilgore of Gloucester Hartpury. And those boats just off the start there, the lights have turned to green. They're putting in their race start. You can see those short, sharp strokes as they push off down into the 2 kilometre course.
These are just wonderful shots to get off the start. It's not very often at some of these races, if you're here at Nottingham at any point over this weekend, it's quite a long walk up to the start line, so we're privileged to be able to have these shots right up here at the start, because it's not often that you get to see these right up close. And a great start there for lane number 5, Thames Rowing Club's Patton, who's shot out the blocks ahead of Gloucester Hartpury just to his left at the top of your picture. These 2 crews out ahead of the rest of the pack, but not by much.
Yeah, Northampton probably holding on to that 3rd place in lane 5. And then it's Nottingham in lane 4 who are sitting in that 4th place as we're off the start. But as we'll say over and over again, races can't be won off the start. You've just got to use that as a starting point to push off down the course, and it will be some real work needed from all of these scullers to develop as they come down the course and make sure they really achieve their race plan here.
So as they'll start coming down onto more of their racing rhythm now, we've talked about the start, how it's a little bit more fast and furious across all the boat types. The rating's a bit higher, so that's the stroke rate per minute. If you're tuning in at home and you're not used to the rowing terminology, we call it the stroke rate. And then they'll settle down after about 250 metres, maybe a little bit before, onto their racing rhythm. So that will be a few strokes less per minute. It allows them to be consistent through the middle of the race at a cruising pace and not expend their energy too early and fly and die. But the aim is to make sure that you're at the most consistent pace for the entirety of the race, so that you've got enough to make it to the line in the position that you want to be.
Yeah, rowing is a sport of levers, and you want to take the full advantage of the full lever available to you. So rating that little bit lower just gives you the time to get out to the catch, make sure you're getting your arms right out in front of you and you're really getting into that catch position, and to take full advantage round the finish of that run on the boat. You want to let it run for just a second before you start moving up the slide again for that next stroke.
So at 500 metres, it is still Patton of Thames that we've got on the screen there that is out ahead, and you can see just a little glance there that he did across to his right just to make sure that he's got the other crews in check. And what a race that's going on behind him. You can see Gloucester Hartpury there on the left of your picture ahead of Nottingham Rowing Club. We've also got Northampton right up there as well, and also the other sculler from Gloucester Hartpury is just off the edge of the picture that you can't see. So this is all very tight stuff here in the D final of the Open Junior 18 single sculls.
Yeah, we saw some really nice close pictures just back there of the catches of the Thames Rowing sculler. You can see some backsplash off his oar, but now as we come in towards the 1,000 metre point, the halfway point of the race, we can just see these scullers coming through to that middle point there. Fairly close across the course in comparison to some of the other finals we've had here. They're really close for places in 2nd, 3rd and 4th there, but out in front was that Thames Rowing Club sculler, Patton in lane 5.
But much tighter. You're right, Jack. Here you can see across all the boats that we've got here in this D final, not much room to make up for the sculler at the back of the pack, which at the moment I think might just be the sculler from Northampton Rowing Club that you can see there just on the right, but really not too much at all. Thames Rowing Club there on the left of your picture, still up there at quite a high rating at this point in the race. These scullers have to be careful, as we've already mentioned, not to expend too much too early, and so that they can hang on right through the middle of the race. But then the local from Nottingham Rowing Club, Preston, there on the right hand side, starting to make a challenge now for the lead from Patton from Thames Rowing Club.
Yeah, so there goes Patton as he comes in towards the 1,000 metre mark. And just look at the backsplash on his oars there as he comes into the catch. He's really getting his oars down to the catch, getting them in nice and tight at the front of the stroke. Don't want to miss any of that lever there. Want to get the full opportunity through the water. Some fantastic technique of Patton of Thames Rowing Club.
But here comes the Bow Balls of Nottingham Rowing Club alongside Gloucester Hartpury. My word, what a race we've got on here, and I think a big push there through the 1,000-metre marker, a very common place for crews to put in a push at halfway, and it's Reid of Gloucester Hartpury now who's pushing down in third place over Nottingham Rowing Club's Preston in second, and I think that's brought them right the way up to get overlap on Patton of Thames in the lead.
So it looks to us, we can see over in lane 6 a sculler out ahead. It looks to us as though that might be Kilger with a significant lead out in front of the pack actually.
Yeah, actually, sometimes we do get these pictures and we can't see the scullers because they're so far out in the lead and they've been so impressive that we don't catch them. And actually, in fact, if you look at the times there, we do have a sculler in lane number 6 from Gloucester Hartpury, Kilger, who has got a monstrous lead over Thames. So Thames actually in second, ahead of the second sculler from Gloucester Hartpury. That's Reid in third. It's the Nottingham Rowing Club that came through the marker alongside, I would say, the sculler from Gloucester Hartpury.
But
It's
look
very,
at the
very
time
close.
separation of first and second across the line there. There's about, 12, 13 seconds separating these two scullers. That translates into a lot of distance on the course.
So we can see there the sculler in second place at the moment, just to clarify. In second place, it's Thames Rowing Club. We can't see the sculler out in first because Gloucester Hartpury's Kilger is so far out in front. A dominating performance and lead in this final D-final of the single sculls. I think we might just be catching some images perhaps soon of the race leader, but for now we're sticking with Patton of Thames Rowing Club, who is in second place, and he's managed to fend off the challenge from Nottingham and Gloucester Hartpury, but only just, because here comes Gloucester Hartpury C in lane number 2. What a push through the 1,000 metres there, Jack.
Yeah, so a comfortable lead for that sculler of Gloucester Hartpury over on the far side, but much closer between these scullers on the near side, and a real battle developing between them there. It looks to me as though it is the other Gloucester Hartpury sculler who's sitting in that second place.
And we can now see the Gloucester Hartpury sculler out in front. There's Kilger at the top of your picture, and you can see how much water he's managed to push between himself and the rest of the pack. And in fact, we could be seeing a Gloucester Hartpury 1-2 here, because Reid of Gloucester Hartpury has now managed to push through early leader Patton of Thames into second place. He's pushed Patton back into third, and also challenging is Nottingham Rowing Club's Preston, who's currently in fourth, but also starting to pull up alongside Thames.
But a 20-second lead at this stage in the race is really quite a performance there for Kilger of Gloucester Hartpury over on the far side, really pushing out ahead of these crews. That's got to be some 4, 5, 6 lengths separating that sculler from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, at least we tend to in rowing equate a length to about 3 seconds. Again, it can depend on what kind of boat you're in, but if you want a rough gauge for those at home who are looking at the times and thinking, I don't know how much or how far that is, if you want to equate that to boat lengths, it's 3 seconds to a boat length. So that gives you a bit of a gauge. So that's at least five or six lengths that the Gloucester Hartpury sculler Kilger has got over the rest of the pack, and also his fellow Gloucester Hartpury sculler.
Yeah, so Gloucester Hartpury sitting in both first and second place. So they're C sculler, and that is Reid of Gloucester Hartpury, who is in lane 2, so more towards the near side of your screen. And the bottom left of your screen now, you can see him there. He's probably got about a 3-length lead over, that must be lane 3. Which will be Nottingham Rowing Club, and that's Preston there, who's holding on to the third place, and to the fourth place actually, because in lane 5 is Thames Rowing Club's Patton there, who's been holding on. He had the second place earlier on in the race, but it is Gloucester Hartpury's Reid in lane 2 who's come through to claim that second spot fairly securely now. We can see from the finish tower that there's some length separating Reid from Patton of Thames Rowing Club, who takes the third place, followed. So there goes Reid across the line, and then Patton will come through in third, followed by, in fourth place, it will be Preston of Nottingham Rowing Club.
A great performance there from all of these single scullers, but I must say that although a dominating performance by Gloucester Hartpury with first and second over the line with Kilger and Reed, I was very impressed by Reed's push at the halfway marker. He was level with Thames coming through halfway and just built on that momentum and rhythm that got him up into second place quite comfortably. So as we see the final scullers now coming into the line, I think it's going to be Samson of Northampton. We'll move on to the next race that's already at 500 metres to go. We've got the C final of the Open Junior 18 single scull. So again, one final progression up from the race that we've just seen.
So we'll take you through the crews in this race. We'll start on the far side of the course. In lane 6, we have Tideway Scullers School Foley. In lane 5, coming closer to us, is White of Glasgow Academy. Lane 4 is Chard of Ardingly. Lane 3 is Vinals of Calpe Rowing Club. Lane 2 is Luck of Buell Bridge. And in lane 1 is Millington of Oxford City.
So they've sped towards the finish tower, these 6 single sculls in the C final of the Open Junior 18 single sculls, and we're back to being a little bit more spread in this race actually. The last race was a lot closer at halfway and then spread out again. I think that's probably what happened here, and you can see the little clock counting down there in the bottom right hand corner of your picture. We're about 7.5 minutes into this race, and that's hard work in a single scull, Jack.
Oh, it certainly is, and it feels a lot longer than 7 minutes, I'd say, when you're sat in the boat. Time seems to slow down when you're sculling in a race like this on your own, in the silence of a single scull, just hearing your blade patter through the water as you push on. But we can see as they come in to the closing stage of this race from the finish tower camera, nice and up high there. It looks to me as though that's lane 5 up there at the front of this race, which is White of Glasgow Academy. He's probably got about 3 lengths separating him from lane 6, which is Foley of Tideway Sculling School in London. And then I think the 3rd place is in the red of Calpe, which will be Vinales.
A great scull here from White of Glasgow Academy. Another really dominating performance over the Tideway Sculler School Foley in lane number 6. A fantastic programme run by Glasgow Academy up there in the west of Scotland. They've produced some fantastic junior athletes in the past, and I'm sure no exception here at this weekend's British Rowing Junior Championships. Ian Summerside, who leads the programme up there, has just had a real good run with all of his junior athletes and all the supporting coaches that help run the programme. And there we have our winner of the C final, White of Glasgow. Is then going to be Tideway Scullers holding on to second, ahead of Calpe in lane number 3. It then looks to be City of Oxford in lane number 1 that will come across in 4th. A little bit of a gap back to the rest of our field in this C final of the Open Junior 18 single sculls.
So the next race on the course, which we can see just attaching to the start, if we switch that image in just a second for you. This will be now moving to the double sculls for the Open Junior 16s, and this is the D final. Oh, they're not off the start, they're further down the course there. So we'll pick them up as they've just gone through the 1,000 metre mark. So on the left-hand side, we have Tideway Scullers School. In lane 2, we have Reading Rowing Club. Lane 3, Stourport Boat Club. Lane 4, Peterborough. Lane 5, Nottingham and Union. And on the far side of your screen, it is Trafford and Warwick Composite.
So we've got the Trafford Warwick Composite out there at the head of the field at the moment, and we are coming into the end of the third quarter of the race. In fact, it's almost the final quarter of the race, and this composite boat at the moment, and in fact Trafford Warrington, apologies, I should probably say, not Warwick, Warrington. I can see the blades there, the yellow and the blue, that signify the club from the northwest of England. These two coming together, you can see the stroke of the boat from Warrington Rowing Club and presumably the bow from Trafford Rowing Club. They're holding off the challenge from Nottingham and Union at the moment. Nottingham and Union from very near to where this championships is taking place, and they've got just under a length to close if they want to pull themselves up into the lead alongside Trafford and Warrington.
So yeah, a very tight battle at the front end of this race between these two double sculls. We've seen some quite separated front runners in the previous races, so nice to see a tight battle there right up at the front of this course.
So they've got just under 500 metres to go here in this D final of the Open Junior 16 double sculls. 3/4 of a length to close to pull themselves up into the lead, and this is going to be a great finish in this final. The composite just trying to hold on to the lead that they've built up across the last 1,500 metres, but they're going to be feeling very tired now, and they're going to have to put the rating up into the final few hundred metres to try and hold off and fend off the challenge from Nottingham and Union.
Yeah, some real tight scenes there over on the far side. It looks as though third place is the next lane in, which will be Peterborough Rowing Club. And they're sculling on there, probably some 3, 4, no, a little bit more than that. It's going to be more like 5 or 6 lengths back there, holding on to that third place. And behind them, just coming into your screen, you can see the other lanes. That will be the Stourport and Reading Rowing Club crews, with Tideway Scullers also in there somewhere.
So the update from the front of this race, I think Nottingham and Union have closed a little bit more on the composite boat on the left hand side of your picture. You've got Nottingham and Union in red on the right hand side, and they're moving through, but I think response there from the Trafford Warrington composite, they're going to have to keep moving up through the speeds, because the Nottingham and Union boats have really put in a really good push there with 500 metres to go. They closed into overlap, but Warrington and Trafford have just pushed back out there. They've held them at bay, and they're now 1 length up coming into the Red Boys.
Yeah, as we come into this Red Boys, you can see both crews raising their rate there. They want to make sure they put everything out on the water, but it is that double scull from Trafford and Warrington over on the far side taking the lead in this D final of the Open Junior 16 double sculls, followed just across the line now by Nottingham and Union, and then we think it's going to be Peterborough who take that third place. We await them coming through the line. But there you can see a nice close-up of the two double sculls from Nottingham and Union and the composite of Trafford and Warrington. Little thumbs up from the stroke of the Warrington Trafford composite there to the other crew who've come in second place.
Lovely to see that even though it was such a close race, it's all in good faith. Great sportsmanship out there as they cross the line, and it will be in fact the crew from Stourport Boat Club that come over in third. It's then going to be lane number 2 Reading Rowing Club that take fourth over the line. And we'll be expecting Peterborough and Tideway Scullers, so Tideway Scullers there at the bottom of your picture, to come over in fifth. And we'll move very swiftly on to the next race, which will be the C final of the Open Junior 16 double sculls, which has just gone through halfway.
So just taking you through the runners and riders in this C final. On the left hand side of your screen in lane 1 is Magdalen School. In lane 2 is Avon County Rowing Club. Lane 3, London Youth Rowing Tradesmen. In lane 4, Team Keen. In lane 5, Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association. And in lane 6, on the far side, we've got a composite of Isle of Ely and Rob Roy Boat Club.
So in fact, they weren't going through halfway. They've just come through 500 metres gone, so a little bit earlier in the race we're joining this one. And as it stands at the moment, I think it is the crew in lane number 5 with the lead from Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association.
Yes, we've got a nice shot there from behind. You can see the crew spread out down the course, but it looks as though lane 5 does have that little gap there as they push off down. And now if we look up the course from the halfway point, the 1,000 metre mark, over there somewhere on the left of our screen will be that crew as we come towards the 1,000 metre mark.
So the best of the rest there, just on the right hand side of your picture, we've got Magdalen School in lane number 1 that currently sit up on Avon County and London Youth Rowing Tradesmen in the centre of your picture.
But if we try to look forward to the leaders in this race over in the far side lanes, and that will be Isle of Ely Rob Roy in lane 6, Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association in lane 5 and Team Keen in lane 4, who are right up at the front of this race.
Well, this is certainly...
We'll spin round and pick them up there.
This is certainly a race of two halves, I think, as we come through 1,000 metres. We're currently riding with the Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association boat in lane number 5. And it is quite a lead that they've got over lane number 1. But in fact, actually, I think that's the crew from Team Keen, perhaps, that sits in the lead.
So the lead of this race definitely over on the far side of the course. We're just trying to pick out which crew has that lead there, but it looks as though it's Team Keen leading Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association as they come through the halfway point and on towards the final 500 metres of this race. Quite spread out at the front end of the course, and there we go. We can see on our screen the leaders there at the 1,000 metre point.
So it is indeed still Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association leading the pack ahead of Isle of Ely and Rob Roy. It's then a little bit further back to lane number 1, Magdalen School, ahead of London Youth Rowing Tradesmen and Avon County in lane number 2.
So we're just seeing these scullers as they come on towards the 500 metres to go point. So they're going through their third quarter of the race. This is the point where it gets quite difficult. It starts to hurt, and they've really got to push on into the closing stages. But somewhere over on the left of our screen there will be that double scull from Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association, who are leading out this C final.
So we're getting pictures now of that leading crew from Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association. Probably one of the most well-travelled crews to be here. And there they are indeed. That is the crew from Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association, just going through 500 metres to go ahead of the Isle of Ely and Rob Roy composite. But
here we can see just behind them, we were looking at them in the picture before, and they'll be just behind this Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association crew.
So as they scull off into the sun, a great lead that they've managed to establish over the rest of the field in this C final of the Open Junior 16 double sculls.
So you can see the times there as they go through the 1,500 metre point. Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association, a time of 5 minutes 53, and they're followed by Isle of Ely and Rob Roy, who are just a few seconds behind, about 10 seconds behind. So that would translate to about 2 or 3 lengths there. And then it is the Magdalen School over on the near side. So quite a few lanes are separating Isle of Ely Rowing Club and Magdalen School. They're right on either side of the course, but they're getting quite close indeed between these two scullers for second and third place. Just 6 or so seconds separating those two scullers there. So a little bit tighter for second and third place than between first and second.
And very tight at the back of the pack actually as well, between Avon County and London Youth Rowing Tradesmen.
Yeah, less than a second.
Less than a second. So these places all count in these finals. In the C final, we're determining places 13 to 18. So they'll be fighting for 17th and 18th place ranking overall. But a really great display of rowing from the Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association crew. As I was saying beforehand, probably one of the most well-travelled crews to be here. They've got a long way to come, so they want to make the most of it. And as the Blue Skies come out here at the National Water Sports Centre, a great win, approaching the line for Aberdeen Schools Rowing Association.
So there goes that bright yellow boat through our finish line there. And they'll be delighted with that performance there. Look at the lead that they've developed over their 2 kilometre travel in this C final of the Open Junior 16 double sculls. And they're followed in second place by the Isle of Ely Rob Roy composite, who go through the line there in lane 6. And on the near side comes that Magdalen College sculling double there in lane 1. So we can see the last 2 double sculls going through the line there. That will be Avon County Rowing Club and London Youth Rowing Tradesmen, who take the 4th and 5th place in this race, and will pass up the course for the next race, which will be race number 137, which was the Women's Junior 16 pairs, is not going to be raced this afternoon. So the next race we are expecting will be the Women's Junior 16 single sculls, and that's due to set off at 5:17. So we've got a few minutes while these single sculls attach. So yeah, race 137, which was due at 5:10, will not be raced today. There will be the other, major finals in that event will take place on Sunday. So the event is going ahead, but this particular race, race 137, is not being raced today. So the next race we'll be looking at will be race 138 for the women's junior 16 single sculls. We've got a few minutes yet before that race is due to set off. So, just going off the start there, we can see on our screens, this is the D final of the Women's Junior 16 single sculls. On the left of your screen in lane 1 will be Yarm School. In lane 2 will be the sculler of Maidstone Invicta. Lane 3, Chester Street. Lane 4, Rob Roy Boat Club. Lane 5, Chester Street again, their C sculler. And in lane 6, Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club. So these scullers just gone through the 150 metre point. And they'll be pushing on now towards their first 500 metres in this race. We'll pick them up as they come in towards the 500 metre mark. But you can see them on their screen as they push away from the start. And there they come into the 500 metre point there. So we can see the red and blue of one of the Chester Street scullers there. Very distinctive kit. To their left is a Rob Roy sculler, it looks like. So that identifies it as lanes 5 and 4. But out there also, there'll be a Clydesdale amateur rowing sculler in lane 6 over on the far side of your screen, just off the picture. But we can see Chester Street there leading. It looks as though they're leading Rob Roy there over on the far side of the course. But there we go. There is the Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club sculler on the far side. Looks to me as though they probably have the lead as we come towards the 500 metre point. But as the camera spins to show us that first marker, we can see the distance between the two crews. It's going to be very close between Clydesdale and Chester Street. And indeed, also up there is the sculler from Rob Roy. I think Clydesdale have the advantage there, but that can only be a canvas separating them and Chester Street. Less than that even, probably a foot separating those two. So close at the top of this race. And then just behind, maybe half a length back, is Rob Roy.
I was just going to say, Jack, very well judged there, because it was incredibly close for between Clydesdale and Chester Street. And as you said, canvas, I could gauge on the screen that it was indeed a canvas. I'm not convinced that the Chester Street sculler was happy with that differential there. She seems to have just lifted it as she's gone through that first marker and has decided, well, you know, it's up there for the taking, and I think I can take the Clydesdale sculler on my outside. And she seems to have gone up, and going with her is the sculler from Rob Roy, also in that sort of maroony red kit. And then just coming into shot, we have, I would assume that's a Maidstone Invicta sculler, or else can't quite get the colours with the beautiful sun shining off the water there, but I think it's Maidstone Invicta. And also up there is the sculler from Yarm, I think, just making a showing there. It's quite difficult to just gauge sometimes when you've got a fast sculler and when the outside lanes on the left here, that if you're concentrating on the far side, they can sometimes sneak through under the radar, as it were. And often, if you're in a far lane, you don't often pan round right across the course to see the scullers in lane 1.
So if we look down the course now, this is from the 1,000 metre point. Coming down, from further down the course, we can see the spread across the lake there, very tight still at the front end between, it's that Clydesdale sculler, the Chester Street sculler, and the Rob Roy. We think Chester Street has that lead. They put a real push in there after they went through the first 500 metres, but those three leading, and then over on the right hand of your side of your screen, you can see the other three scullers separated there. So a race of two halves, it looks like, Carol.
Well, possibly you say that. I would not discount the Yarm sculler in lane 1. I think that she possibly has managed to sort of pull herself through in the radar. Got a lovely shot of the Chester Street colours there. That's the sculler. As we surmised, as they'd gone through 1,000 metres, we thought that 500 metres, I do apologise. We did think that she'd made a lift, and indeed she has done a lift and a push there, and just managed to pull herself in front of the Clydesdale sculler. So just as they're going through this marker, it's going to be Chester Street, about 1.25 lengths in front of Clydesdale. Great performance from Wilkinson of Chester Street there. And she's managed to pull herself in front of the rest of the field. The Clydesdale sculler probably having a battle with Rob Roy for that second place in this D final.
So we can see there on the top left of your screen the order as they go through the 1,000 metre mark. It is that Clydesdale Chester Street sculler who's taking the lead there, followed by Clydesdale in lane 6. Then Rob Roy, then that Yarm sculler who Carol saw going up that near side, just holding on to 4th place, but so close on Rob Roy there. So really tight actually in that 4th position there third position between Rob Roy and Yarm School. So we could see a challenge there as we go in to the third quarter of this race.
Indeed, it's sometimes the third quarter is quite a difficult one to gauge, and especially when you've got the Yarm sculler rowing pretty much in isolation over on the far side. On the right hand side of our screen, the Yarm sculler's rowing pretty much by herself, whereas over on the far side we've got Rob Roy, Clydesdale and Chester Street in their own little bubble, and they've got each other to push off. Sometimes it's quite hard when you're just rowing in isolation just to maintain that momentum, that push because you've got nobody around you to push you on. So good on Brown from Yarm to be in contention with the Rob Roy Sculler there for that third place. But
rowers thrive on competition, so we'll always see faster times in raced finals where we've got close competition between scullers than we'll see maybe in time trials early in the day, where it's difficult to judge the pace and to push yourself to be on that top performance.
And just talking about competition, you'll probably see some competition or hear some competition between Jack and myself fighting for the microphone, because sometimes it's hard to get a word in edgeways with Jack. But never mind. We're focusing in the Chesterless Street Sculler there. It's looking quite comfortable now. She seems to have just dropped her rating slightly, just comfortably in front of the Clydesdale Sculler there. And I think she's just sitting on that a length and a quarter lead, maybe a length and a half lead, and just managing just to do enough to stay in that first place in this D final. Lovely long strokes there, just reaching out, just leaning back, just taking advantage of these nice strong finishes. It is into a headwind, so just holding on to the finishes as long as possible does assist. But she has got quite a comfortable lead there now, Jack, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's going through into the final 500 metres. You can see the distance separating her from the other scullers. It looks as though Yarm School in lane 1 is right up there now. With her, but over on the far side will be the scullers of Clydesdale and Rob Roy up there too, so it's difficult to judge who's in that second place spot at the moment, but it is certainly that sculler of Chesterless Street in lane 5 who has the lead as we come into the final 500 metres of this race.
Just a lovely shot of the sun just bouncing off the water there as they're coming into the final phase of the race. This is where it's all or nothing, and they make their big pushes. So yeah, it still looks to be with Wilkinson of Chesterless Street, McGee of Clydesdale in that second place, and then this good battle between Pabla of Rob Roy and Brown of Yarm School for third and fourth.
So yes, this D final of the Women's Junior 16 Single Sculls, that's the picture in the top right of your screen, and we can see Chesterless Street leading out there with, on her left hand side in lane 6, as Carol says, Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club, and then Rob Roy on her right. But we think Yarm School is right up there also. And Yarm School be in lane 1 on the right of the picture.
So the scullers just coming into the final phases. You can see all the marquees on the grassy bank there. Most clubs have their own marquee. It was very useful earlier on today when the big rain shower came through, and in fact somebody had spotted some snow lying on the ground. It was quite sudden, and I'm sure the marquees were very much in use then. But it's lovely to see because it makes quite a nice spectacle for the athletes and the parents, and it just makes the event feel really very important. It's an important event. This is the Junior Championships after all. But it's a Chesterless Street Sculler just coming into that final phase of her race. Just in the last few strokes, just going past the scoreboard there, you can see at the top of your screen, and she seems to have left all the other scullers behind as she comes into the finish line.
Yeah, so some fantastic shots there from the top of the finish tower as Chesterless Street goes over the line to take the first place in this D final, followed on the far side by the Clydesdale Amateur Rowing Club sculler McGee. And then it looks as though third place will be with Babla of Rob Roy Boat Club there at the top of your screen. But with that, we'll look forward to the next race, which will be the C final of the Women's Junior 16 Single Sculls. And we can see them there on the bottom left of your screen, and they are just gone through the 500 metre points. They're pushing on now towards the halfway point in their race. So if we take you through the scullers in this race, Carol, do you want to take us through from lane 1 on the left hand side?
Oh, thank you, Jack, giving me a chance to speak for once. Thank you. That's all right. In lane 1 in the C final, we have Bedford Rowing Club, Monaghan. Lane 2, Holmes of Notts County Rowing Association. In lane 3, it's Tapsell of Shanklin Sounddown. In lane 4, Sutherland of Norwich. In lane 5, Ramnani of Broxbourne. And in lane 6, McGowan of Loch Lomond.
So you can see the blade colours of each of these crews on your screen there in that nice graphic. But now we see them pushing on down towards the 1,000 metre point there.
And it looks as though it's an early showing from the Loch Lomond sculler. I can spot the Loch Lomond kit. Nice white top with the red hoop in the middle, followed by the Broxburn sculler there. But Loch Lomond has probably got an advantage of a couple of lengths there, Jack, I would say, and looks pretty comfortable. And as the name suggests, they do row on Loch Lomond, which can be notoriously choppy and quite difficult conditions a lot of the time. So I'm sure the swell or the chop here in Nottingham is not giving any problems for this Loch Lomond sculler.
Yeah, of all the boats, I think probably technique comes the most to play in the single sculls, or certainly one of the more difficult boats to master technically. You need to make sure you're really clean to really get the benefit of that full stroke on the course here, and that's what we can see from the Loch Lomond sculler. A nice smooth drive through the stroke. The hands go down and away and she goes forward, really getting the blades in at the catch. You can see a little backsplash off her oar there. Some really nice technical rowing there from Loch Lomond.
Oh, absolutely. And, the Broxburn sculler is sticking with her as well, not letting her get too far in front, because once that we often talk about an invisible band holding boats together. And if that band is broken, it's really hard to get back in touch with the boat in the lead. So the Broxburn sculler is doing a sterling job just staying in contact with the sculler from Loch Lomond. Just coming into shot now, we have the Norwich sculler there, and also Tapsell of Shanklin Sundown.
So if we cut to further up the course, looking back on these athletes, we can see the club colours without the sunshine from above. We can see over on the far side, if we look up the course from the 1,500 metre point, we'll just cut to that camera there, and you can see over on the far side just the lead developed by that Loch Lomond sculler and the other crews behind her looking back up the course there. Fairly similar distances separating each of these crews, a nice 1, 2, 3 separating the first three across, although Broxbourne is up there and nice and close with that Loch Lomond sculler there, so quite tight at the front end.
Oh, indeed it is, but it is a strong performance from the Loch Lomond sculler, McGowan. She is, I think she's managed to break this invisible band that we sometimes talk about, and I think she's got some clear water advantage there over Ramnani of Broxbourne, and as they come closer in, you'll be able to see that. Lovely distinctive kit of the Loch Lomond sculler, and really nice matching boat too. It's always nice when you see a club buying boats in their club colours. So it's one of those nice kits that you can spot from a distance, and I'm sure possibly designed for the murky waters of Loch Lomond. But yes, McGowan of Loch Lomond really having a nice push there, long, strong finishes. Just you can see the legs connecting, nice leg drive, Jack, wouldn't you say? Just pushing along there.
Fantastic technical rowing there from the Loch Lomond sculler. We love bright kit as commentators, so it's always nice to see someone in bright red. Easy for us to spot and recognise. But there you can see Broxbourne coming through in that second place, about 2 lengths back, so a length of clear water or so separating these two scullers. Would that qualify as the band being broken, Carol, do you think?
Oh, I definitely think so. It's I think once the overlap has gone, the band has broken, and then that's very difficult to come back to get this overlap, because the Loch Lomond sculler is sitting there quite happily knowing exactly what the Broxbourne sculler is trying to do, and she is very much in control of the rest of this race. As you can see, we can just coming into the marqueed area, or the tented area, the little tented village over on the far side for the supporters, the parents, the club mates. And this is one of the good things about the junior regatta. We have lots of supporters, lots of club mates who come and stay and just support their athletes, and it's great to hear and it's great to watch. But it's still the Loch Lomond sculler very much in control of this race now. I think that band has been well and truly broken between these two scullers. Broxbourne in second place, 2.5 lengths behind, I would say now, with Shanklin Sundown in that third place, as you can see from the screen. Norwich in fourth and Bedford in fifth.
So yeah, very hard to come back once you're separated from a crew in front of you, rowing a really psychological sport to take part in, particularly in the single scull when you're out there on your own. It starts to hurt as you get through into the second half of these races, and you've really got to have that mental toughness to push through, and particularly when you know there's another sculler somewhere out there in front of you, but you're not exactly sure how far ahead they may be.
Well, sometimes you can hear them, but it depends on the wind conditions, the water conditions. But yes, as Jack was saying, it's a very difficult race to win. As single scullers, I think, have a certain psychology and mental toughness, as Jack's already talked about, just to do this race. It's a long way by yourself. In a crew boat, you've got somebody else backing you up all the time, which is nice. But that said, it's Loch Lomond leading as they come towards the finish. But the Broxburn sculler, look, she's just upped her rating there and has just decreased that margin that Loch Lomond has. Loch Lomond going through the line in that first place, with Broxburn in second place. Broxburn managed to decrease the distance just as they came towards the line there.
So we'll look forward to seeing the times as they go over the finish there. But on your screen are the 1,000 metre point times with 500 to go. You can see there was a separation of about 5 seconds between Broxburn and the Loch Lomond sculler. It looks as though they held on to that separation